Hi. Yeah, if you can hear me clap. If you can hear me clap. Yeah, if you can hear me clap one time. If you can hear me clap 3 times. If you can hear me clap 4 times. Hey, yay. Pretty good. We got most of the room back. Well, you've had a long 3 days, and you're in the last stretch. The fact that you're here means that you really want to learn a little bit about EMDR therapy.
I can't hear you.
Okay. Oh, how about this? Better? Okay. So I was just saying, if you were here, it means you really wanted to learn a little bit about EMDR therapy on the last day, right? So welcome. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself real quickly. I'm Christy Sprouse. I am in Austin, Texas, and I'm in independent practice. I've been working with the EMDR Institute for just about 25 years or so now. It was one of the things that I felt very passionate about. I have also had, just a nod to the gentleman before us, that I had also gone to have TFT therapy training, and I really love both. But my direction took me more into the EMDR world. And one day, I was at Harvard with Dr. Shapiro, and we were talking about international work. I grew up living and traveling all over the world, and my father got food to starving nations. You still can't hear me? Okay. Okay, how's that? In the back? No, they still can't hear me. Okay. Kaylee to the rescue. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, long story short, my father was in the Foreign Service, and we traveled all over the world, which was much to my delight as a child, you can imagine. But I came across my passion for service very early. And Shapiro and I were sitting at a table at Harvard, and I told her about my history, and she said, great. So I have this belief in humanitarian assistance work, and you're going to be the person. I said, oh, thank you. Those were my dreams come true, right? So I have been fortunate enough to go all over the world doing trainings in EMDR therapy, and a lot like TFT, you can do this really anywhere. There's no barriers to language, education, anything like that, as long as you follow what we're getting ready to talk to you about. I'll just say this is a thumbnail sketch of a long therapy, right, a long training. It takes about 6 days, and then in addition to that, some consultation. So hopefully you'll get just a little bit of knowledge about it, and then it'll pique your interest if you're interested in being trained at all. I'm going to show you just a little blip, kind of get you fired up about EMDR first, and then we'll go from here. Put your shields up, your therapeutic shields up, because there will be some graphic material.
Last July, Santa Monica, an elderly driver plows through the farmer's market. Their crash killed 10 people and changed dozens of lives. After one witness triggered an emotional avalanche. The crash unleashed decades of repressed memories for that witness, a veteran of the first Gulf War, and he found himself suffering post-traumatic stress. But tonight's special assignment, CBS News' Linda Alvarez shows us one way the illness is diagnosed.
Oh.
Can y'all
Sorry.
hear it? You're gonna start it over.
Incidents that pile up.
Thank you,
I met a
Kaylee.
seemingly strong and healthy young man who served in the first Gulf War. But it wasn't until a tragic accident this year that his symptoms of post-traumatic stress surfaced. The sea is calming for Stephen Carey. Here, the crashing waves help him forget about how he's faced violence and death several times. As a child, as a young Marine, and even as recently as 5 months ago, just a few blocks away, one terrible day in Santa Monica.
Unknown number of people, as you know.
It was the day a driver sped through the farmer's market and killed 10 people.
It happens so fast. You have no time to think about it, you just react.
Stephen can walk through the stalls of the market now and recall how he dove out of the way of the deadly car.
I remember thinking he was gonna run over my legs. He was gonna hit my legs.
Now he can talk about the overwhelming destruction and the death.
She was lying on the ground, really bad head injury, and bleeding out.
He remembers how he tried to use skills he learned in the Marines to help the injured, and how one woman died in his arms.
With her, there was nothing I could do. And it's sad.
Stephen can talk about that traumatic day now, but it wasn't always so. After the tragedy, he went back to work at a nearby bicycle shop. But for days, he was unusually nervous, shaky, couldn't sleep, became withdrawn. And when he went back to the site of the tragedy,
I saw the memorial that they already set up. And immediately, I just brought back a flood of emotions, and I broke down.
Stephen was flooded with painful memories he had kept bottled up inside, some going back to his childhood.
He was violent and abusive to myself, my sisters, my mom.
An alcoholic father burned down their house and once dangled him over a bridge.
I was staring down 100 feet, afraid I was going to fall.
Stephen also faced death as a tank commander on one of the first units to cross the Kuwaiti border during Desert Storm.
I remember they were expecting like 50% casualties day one.
You thought you were going to die?
Oh, for sure.
The overwhelming memories triggered by the farmer's market incident forced him to get help. Stephen came to the Ament Clinic for a brain scan.
If we look at these red areas, they're all working hard.
Dr. Daniel Amen is a psychiatrist and brain imaging specialist.
When we see people who've been traumatized, what we see is their brain works too hard. There are certain emotional centers in their brain that just appear like they're on fire.
Dr. Amen says Stephen's brain shows all the signs of post-traumatic stress disorder.
We need to get rid of all those triggers.
The treatment Dr. Amen prescribes is EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. This is Stephen's first session with therapist Sarah Gilman. He follows a moving light, listens to alternating tones, feels impulses tap on his palms, all while he focuses on traumatic events in his past.
There were so many people that I couldn't help.
It's a painful process for Stephen, as the therapist keeps him focused on his feelings.
I wish I could have done more.
One memory stirs up another.
And where did your thoughts go?
I was just thinking about my uncle. I was a firefighter.
Gilman listens to Stephen's memory of his favorite uncle who died in a fire helping others and tries to guide Stephen to a better self-image.
Perhaps your strong reactions and your fast pace helped as many people as you could help. Are those characteristics you share with your uncle?
As Stephen hears her positive words, the EMDR stimulates both hemispheres of his brain and helps his nervous system reorganize his memories.
And when you activate the area of the brain where the information is stored, then you can begin to move that information to a part of the brain that is more efficient in terms of its storage, so it won't produce then the negative consequences or symptoms of post-traumatic stress.
Even after the first session, the brain scan shows an improvement. And after the sixth session,
I'm definitely not as shaky.
physically and emotionally, Stephen is functioning better. After EMDR, revisiting the past no longer brings on the same symptoms of post-traumatic stress.
I realize that there's a lot of things that I've carried along with me from the past that now I was able to let go of and put them where they should be, which is in the past.
Stephen is doing much better now, but does plan to continue with counseling. EMDR is one of many treatments used for post-traumatic stress. I'm in Alvarez for special assignment.
It's all to this. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today again is just a couple of aspects of EMDR therapy. I don't think I'm going to stand back here. I won't be able to walk around you guys. I speak already, you've noticed that I speak softly, so I've got to use this. So it'll limit me to behind here. Anyway, so I'm going to be talking about EMDR therapy and what populations you might be using this with. I'm going to just hopefully increase your general knowledge. It will not go deep. We already talked about that. I'm going to also talk to you about when is EMDR appropriate for particular trauma clients, right? And then this afternoon we're going to be also doing a calm, safe place exercise, something that you can be using with just about anybody at any time to help them change their state. So they might come in riled up, and you can use their safe, calm place to help them change state. I don't know that all of you know what changing state means, so I'll just talk a little bit about that. Generally speaking, who we are is pretty genetically predisposed, but how we are in the world and who we are in the world is a general aspect of ourselves. It's our trait. The state is how we are in a particular day, or like the weather. It kind of comes and it goes and it changes. Sometimes we get stuck in a state where we're upset or riled or anxious or angry or even traumatized. And by doing this one exercise, we can train ourselves how to take ourselves from that disturbance to a safe place, a safe, calm place. So we'll be doing that this afternoon. Okay, some of you may have heard about Francine Shapiro. She is the founder of EMDR Therapy and the EMDR Therapy Institute. I am faculty on the EMDR Institute. I do trainings, as I say, internationally. She had been herself a cancer survivor. While she was going through her cancer, she developed EMDR therapy. She noticed that when she was thinking about something that was disturbing, she inadvertently moved her eyes back and forth. That was the beginning of this whole series of EMDR therapy. What she noticed was as her eyes moved back and forth, the disturbance lessened. What she started doing thereafter was grabbing anybody who she could see, anybody who would be willing to think about something disturbing, wiggle your eyeballs, and tell me if you notice a decrease in disturbance. And she found rather quickly that not everybody could move their eyes back and forth. So she developed this, bilateral stimulation. No science yet, just results. She worked on a particular group of people. She was thinking she wanted some homogeneity. So she worked on veterans primarily. She included in this study for Journal of Traumatic Stress, also some rape survivors. Through all of those machinations, she was able to develop what we call the 8-phase protocol now. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. EMDR is evidence-based, and it's a client-centered approach. Okay, so it really is a collaborative process. We believe, and we'll talk more about this here in 2 seconds as well. I'll talk about what we think about severe or traumatic incidents and how you might recover. But it is a combination of several different types of therapy, like CBT. You'll be able to find some CBT in there. even NLP in terms of how do you move the eyeballs, right? Whatever approach you use, we ask you to bring that approach to EMDR therapy and utilize it in your therapeutic sessions as well. What we know now, it started out as just a PTSD treatment, but we have been successful in researching, not only researching, but also applying this to several different areas. PTSD, anxiety, phobias, grief, somatic disorders, addiction, many other types of therapy that we're using, or different types of diagnosis we're using this EMDR therapy with great results. What we tell anybody who's interested in EMDR and who goes through the training is if you have interest in a particular population, do research on it. It'll help the cause. You all have been here all weekend, so you know what the definition of trauma is. So I'll move on. In the video, you might have noticed that what the gentleman came in for was the disturbance of the accident that had happened in the marketplace. He was very disturbed by that, so he came in. But what happened in the EMDR therapy session was that it went to the past. So they may come in the present with a disturbance, but we really want to know what in the past needs to get cleared up so that the present disturbance is lessened or it goes away altogether. And how do they want to be thinking about themselves? What do they want to be doing? How do they want to be acting, thinking? All of those things without a barrier in the future. And then we start working on that as a goal too. Wrong way. So bilateral stimulation is dual attention. Bilateral stimulation can be eye movements, it can be tapping, and it can be auditory. What we learned this along the way as well. She started out just doing this, right, back and forth. And then we talk about this a lot, but as we were going around the world in training, you can imagine if somebody tells you, first of all, to do this and think about something, they're going to think you're a little bit wacky. But interestingly enough, I have to tell you, like in Guatemala, so the curandero there goes like this, okay? And in American Indian culture, they have shells on their legs and they do a dance. So it's like back and forth. If you're swimming, it's bilateral stimulation. If you're walking, it's bilateral stimulation. So inherently, we have these things that help us heal from trauma. We just have them sit down, focus on it, put a laser on what's going, all aspects of a memory, and then we focus on that and do bilateral stimulation. We also had a gentleman who came in Nicaragua, and he was blind. And they thought, we're gonna teach her. She won't know what to do with this because she can't do this with this guy. And that's where tapping came in. And so we're gonna be teaching you guys this afternoon, okay? Tapping or doing this on the exercise of the safe, calm place. However, we did the tapping on the legs, and it all went extremely well. And so they, in that population, just in my class there, believed that, oh, well, maybe this thing, it really can work, you know. Okay, another one down. When we're thinking about how does EMDR work, the first thing that I always like to tell everybody is that we don't know. Okay? It is the most researched trauma therapy that there is, and we still don't know. You can study like this much of the brain for 10 years and not know why it's working or what it's doing. So it isn't for lack of trying. We have studies out of Stanford, out of Yale, out of, not Cornell. Cornell does not like EMDR. But anyway, we don't really know. But what we theorize is that we have these three things that we're thinking about. One is the adaptive information processing model, the triune brain model, and memory reconsolidation. So the AIP model for short, EMDR is a lot like the military. It has all these acronyms. AIP, basically we think we have inherently the ability to heal. That what happens when a trauma, and again, this is like, cliff notes, just tiny little dots of information, but what happens when a traumatic event occurs to us is that generally speaking, we think about it, we talk about it, we dream about it, and whatever is negative about it metabolize, wrong word, metabolizes, and it is no longer disturbing. But on the occasion, something gets stuck in the nervous system, right? That's when we have a traumatic exposure and traumatic response. And we think about that as maladaptive encoding in the memory system. Our job is to go after that. And essentially, we set up this protocol, all the 8 phases, to figure out how is a memory stored and how do we go after it. And how can we actually not only get the memory to be less disturbing, but have learning come from it. That they can be safe, maybe, right? That perhaps they survived whatever disaster may have happened to them. Okay. Even what we have found is that also there's big T traumas, that's what we used to talk about, big T traumas and little t traumas, and adverse childhood experiences. Have you all heard of adverse childhood experiences? Yeah, kind of, okay. So for those of you who haven't, I see some people shaking their heads yes and no. So for those of you who haven't heard about the impact of adverse childhood experiences, we frequently find that, in fact, those are more traumatic to people than a big T trauma, like an accident or a war. Believe it or not, those are the most traumatic things we can survive. And generally speaking, the AIP model, again, is just really saying that it should be innate. It should start happening. If it's not happening, healing isn't happening, there's something in the way. We know, and you probably all have been hearing this all weekend, so again, I'll kind of go through some of this rather quickly, but basically, you know when something is stuck. People have nightmares, right? They might have intrusive thoughts, all of those things that are in the trauma, in PTSD diagnosis, hypervigilance, startle responses. We believe that, and I have to use my hands for this, but we believe that, for lack of a better idea about what memory systems, and I liked what you were doing about showing how the brain is. I make this, my idea about what's happening in the brain is, have you had planted pots of flowers where you pull them up and you see this crazy network of roots? That's what I think our brains look like. And how do we know where in that brain do we have to go for the healing? By doing the steps again that we go through, it allows us to gain access to those things in our brain in the way that they were laid down. And everybody I work with, I tell them, look, your brain is infinitely more brilliant than I am. I have no idea what's in there, how long this is going to take, or what it's going to take, or where we're going to wind up. That's true. I don't. But I do have the skill set to help whatever comes up and help you manage it. Okay. Also, something about memories, or a lot of times they trigger something. So even we say that the past is the present when you're getting triggered. And memories also include our attitude, our responses to situations, our concept, personality traits, and symptoms of mental health. What we do with EMDR therapy is the 8 phases we start with, and I'm going to move ahead, because we focus on the frozen material. And we'll talk about it again in a minute. The nice thing about the triune brain model, or triune, however you want to pronounce it, was developed by Paul McLean. Has anybody seen his video? No. It's worth seeing. It's jam-packed of information about the brain, and this brain in particular, and what he thinks. But you probably have to watch it about 10 times to get everything, because he's really a fast talker. That there is a triune brain. There's the brain stem, the limbic system, and the neocortex. The brain stem is the physical brain. It's the unconscious, reptilian brain, the one that helps us just do things automatically. The emotional brain, we were talking about that earlier today, is the part of the brain that includes the amygdala, which mediates emotion. The thinking brain, of course, is your frontal lobe. And the nice thing about EMDR is that it can help the client process through all of these parts of your brain. So here we go. There's the limbic system, the neocortex, and the brainstem, or Bob. What we have found is that oftentimes the limbic system is the thing that keeps people trapped in their survival mode. Because it is there. When they hear a backfire, they hit the dirt, right? That is really difficult to access. The other thing that's interesting about the limbic system is that here is where it's connected with pleasure. So what does that mean? That means this is when people are traumatized and they have not been treated, what do they turn to? Drugs and alcohol, food, right? Different kinds of things for coping strategies. So if you're working with that population, which I do, you can see that a lot of times if you work on the trauma, of course, people develop these things to cope. You can help a great deal with their addiction. And EMDR allows the person to access the trauma and reprocess it again throughout the brain. Candle talks about memory reconsolidation. He, in 2001, won the Nobel Prize in Medicine. But we think about reconsolidation as well in EMDR therapy, that not only are we accessing the memory, but we're doing something by the bilateral stimulation that helps to reconsolidate the memory. In other words, it puts it into a different framework, right? It's in a way that is no longer disturbing, and I'll give you an idea about what I'm talking about. A case where a woman came in because she was traumatized by her mother's death. Okay? All she could remember about it, and please again put up your shields if this touches you. All she could remember was that her mother was withering away, how she looked, how long it took for her to die, how painful it was for her. And that's the only connection she had with her mom. So she came in because she was suffering with the grief of the loss. We focused on everything about that, all of the things that happened to her mom, and seeing her in the hospital and hooked up to all kinds of IVs and breathing mechanisms. Once we were done with that, she was able to re-establish a relationship with her mother, though she was passed, reminding herself of the love that they had, of the fun that they had, of the times they laughed together, of the things her mother taught her. All positive. And what was not necessary for her to keep going in life, or what was holding her back, just melted away. Of course, you can't forget that you've lost your mom. That's not the idea. It's not the idea to just erase memories. but it's to take away what doesn't help you in the day-to-day life. Live how you want to be living. Okay? So, I pretty much just covered this, but we have to reactivate it. Sometimes people feel, and even I say this sometimes when I'm working with somebody, I go, okay, so now you know what we're going to do next. And I'm sorry we have to go here. Because it's hard, you guys. It's hard for people to call these things up. It takes a lot of courage. And I even feel a little bit bad about it sometimes, having to have them do that. But that's what we're doing. We have to get them to go there. EMDR is not prolonged exposure. And not dogging prolonged exposure, it has its place. But it is not that. It does not require homework for hours or to have the person go through it over and over again. It is just to identify it in terms of memory consolidation, right? In terms of how did that memory get put into their brain? The image, the negative belief that they have about themselves at the moment of the trauma. We have to go there. But it doesn't have to last long. Generally speaking, the worst part of an EMDR session will take about 20 minutes. And you'll find that they go on this bell-shaped curve. Up here, high anxiety, high disturbance, down to a lower level of disturbance. In about 20 minutes, the worst case. Okay? It doesn't mean that it's all gone in that 20 minutes, but it means that you've gotten through the worst of it with them. And then, as I said, what reconsolidates is, I love my mom, and I can think about her with pleasure. She can fill my heart up even though she's not here. That's what we're after. Whenever somebody calls me, or whenever I'm working with somebody, I let them know in advance what to expect. People call me and ask me, okay, Christy, I'm very interested in coming in for some EMDR therapy, and I want to start the minute I get there. Well, I have to let them know there are all of these things that we have to do in preparation for you doing that. And it has to be determined by you. And it is your brain is as complicated as that root system I was talking about. And there's no way to predict how long it's going to take. Some of you might have read that it might take 3 hours, or 3 sessions, or whatever you've heard, 12 sessions. It takes what it takes. So that's the first thing to know. It's not going to change a long-term problem in 3 sessions. If you get that, that's wonderful, because that does happen. But don't expect it. And don't let them think that that's what's going to happen if you have them come into your office. Okay. So here's what we go through. Here's the 8 phases we were talking about. The first thing we do is we do a very thorough history. And then we decide upon together, because it's a collaborative therapy, remember, that we decide on what the treatment plan is going to look like. And when we talk about EMDR therapy, we're talking about first you come in, everybody knows how to do a history taking. You probably do it very well and very thoroughly. So we do that, and then we get more information. Another EMDR therapy history taking. Because you want to identify what targets mean what memories are you going to be working on together. Generally speaking, how I do that is to do a timeline of their life. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I want to know everything there is to know. And collaboratively, we choose which targets they're going to want to work on. And then you have to do preparation phase. And preparation phase means that you want to ready them for what's coming. You want to do a whole set of things. And one of those is a safe, calm place today. Like I said, the safe, calm place can be used with anybody, anytime, anywhere, as long as you know what you're doing. I teach, I'm also an executive coach, and I teach my executives the safe, calm place so that they can do this when they're in a meeting, when they are in traffic, when they're traveling, And believe it or not, they use it all the time too. So it doesn't even have to be somebody who is traumatized. It's something really nice to be able to change your state. If you're anxious before a speech or something like that, I'm going to go to my beach. And they do it. You'll see. I hope you'll enjoy it this afternoon. So preparation involves all of these things. It involves informed consent. And that's a long list. And like I say, this is a 6-day training, so for me to go through everything, it's impossible. But just know that there are steps to do preparation for people. You want to make sure the person is stable as they can be, prior to even beginning EMDR therapy. In the assessment phase, that's when you actually go for an image, a negative belief about themselves. You'll have the subjective units of disturbance because you want to measure what that is. How would they rather be feeling about themselves in the future? How true does that feel to them? This idea that I can be loved or I can heal or I am competent. And then you take it to the body. Well, go back one, take it to the emotions. So these are all the components of memory: an image, a negative belief about themselves. What emotions come up for them when they think about this particular memory? Where do they feel that in their body? That covers all the ways memories go into their minds, into their brains. And then you start desensitization, and that is bilateral stimulation. Okay, it looks something like this. And I make a little joke, might not be funny, but I say we keep our lips kind of sealed in EMDR therapy, mainly because we don't want to interrupt their brilliant brain from going to where it needs to go for healing, right? So my little joke is, I get paid a lot to do this, right? And hush. Of course, I have years of experience doing this, so it's not really that simple, but there you go. And then what we do is, we've talked about the positive. So the installation phase is where you take the positive memory and you hold it together with the memory that was disturbing to them, and you see how true does it feel to you now after you've done this for a long time with them. If it's true, you install it and you enhance it. And then you take it to the body. So you're going to want to know where in the body, if they get this belief that I am capable or I am lovable, all the way to a 7 level of belief, of validity of cognition. Then you want to take them to their body and see if there's anything left in their body. And let me tell you a story about that. So another case where a woman had been banished from her mother's home. She had gone to help her mama die. And her mother was dying and banished her from the house. You can imagine how disturbing that is, right? So we worked on what that was like for her. The loss of not being able to say goodbye to her mother, not being able to care for her mom. Sorry, I'm using moms a lot today, but that's the cases that are coming to mind. And what was left after we got her all the way through the trauma situation was this pain in her neck. So I said, okay, so let's go for that pain in your neck. Well, Christy, this is chronic pain. I've had it for 10 years and it's not going to go away, and there's really no point in doing it. And so I said, well, would you like to just try to see what would happen? And she said, yes. That's okay, I'll try it. So we focused on that pain in her neck. It went away. And we got that pain down to no disturbance. And at the end of the session, she said, well, Christy, that was good, but probably when I get home, it's going to come back. And I said, well, it could. I don't know either. But let's just see. Let's remain curious. Another nod. So she came back and it was still gone. So evidence about how the body stores things on a cellular level, right? In the body. So we're using everything, you guys, some people say that EMDR doesn't use your body, but I have people who are, if they are having an issue, like they want to punch a perpetrator, right? Or one of my clients, and you guys who've trained with me before have heard some of these stories already, but one of my clients came in. She'd been sober 20 years, in recovery for 20 years, in therapy for 20 years, and she said, Christy, I just want to work on this one little old thing that I remember. And I was like, okay. And what happened was we started doing EMDR therapy, and suddenly she went from living in her head to realizing she had her whole body. She occupied her whole body in the first session that we ever had. And it was quite a revelation to her, and actually to me too. And I'm not going to scare you. I won't scare you with stories. But, I mean, she just started shaking and shaking and shaking. And we focused on her body and the body sensations, and I'll tell you more about that case. But she's fine. She's doing great. But we use the body. If they want to kick, if they want to scream, if they want to punch, if they want to move. Sometimes I'm running around my office chasing after people doing bilateral stimulation so they can get the movement that they want. I also work with peak performance a lot, so seriously I do. Okay, so if you're a weightlifter, you get in my office and you're doing, you're imagining doing the weights where you do the whole thing. And it's kind of a lot of fun, actually. So is the future template, I'll tell you about that later. So we want to include the body. We also think about EMDR being a meditation. It can be very similar to meditation in this way. We're thinking about something and we're just noticing it. We're not getting stuck on it. We're not stopping there. And we teach them that they can tolerate it with the bilateral stimulation. We're working on that all the time. We teach them, just notice it. What's coming up? What do you notice now? Not just one type of idea for healing. And if there's a takeaway from this week, I hope you guys can see there's so many different ways of doing not EMDR, sorry, that's my brain. So many ways of doing trauma treatment. And I used to work in a hospital too. I used to run a psychiatric hospital. And we did different types of things in that hospital. And they were all really good, right? Whatever is appropriate for that particular individual is what you should be using. Okay, and then you just close down the session and you follow up at the next session. We always like to tell you that there's no rush in doing EMDR therapy. You want to make sure the client is stable, so in preparation phase you're going to be doing stabilization techniques. You're going to be doing whatever you need to do. Information, it might be education, it might be containers, containments. I know you've all learned about that from Janice, right, earlier this week, trauma containment. So, just so you know, there's lots of ways to do that. And I think the more the merrier. If you have someone very stable, everything's going to go much better for you. And I know that there are times when, literally speaking, and this is for you if you decide to get trained and then you get a few years under your belt, but the Israelis are doing it the moment a trauma occurs. The moment a trauma occurs. And something that's also heretical, sometimes I lose my words up here, but is the fact that even we discovered with EMDR therapy, and this is the Israelis, that you can work on people who do, like if they are in a constant trauma situation like war or family violence, you can do safe, calm place with them. You can do some EMDR therapy with them. There's ways to do that, again, advanced training. But you can do it pretty immediately without doing harm. And then what happens is they can be able to be, if they're in war, they can attend instead of freezing, and they might save their own life, and they might save other soldiers' lives as well. So that's what, again, is possible. But you don't want to just jump in. You want to make sure, you want to take time to make the assessments, okay? The other thing is screening for dissociation. We have you screen every single person who comes in for dissociation. And generally speaking, I think that we don't know, most clinicians don't even know when somebody is dissociating in your office. And I'm not talking DID, but I'm talking dissociation, right? It's when like half of you are kind of asleep right now, dissociating. You know, it's like too much information, you know, and your brain has to go somewhere. Or it might be that you just look out the window sometimes and you see the nice breeze. Of course, today's more like a gale. But right, you kind of just see things happening out here and it feels really, really good to look outside there. But I make a description of what dissociation looks like for the people who come see me and let them know that first, we all do it. And second, it's a matter of degree. And it's, you know, you'll begin to be able to start picking it up in your office, but we all dissociate. And a lot of times people come to me and they say, Chrissy, nobody's ever talked to me about dissociation and nobody ever noticed before, other therapists, right? But you do, you begin to notice with your work with EMDR. You can see it. Okay. So I've actually already run through these. Assessment. We do want to try to get you down to a 0 level of disturbance when we're working with people, but the misconception is you might be able to achieve that in one session. Yes, often you can. Often you can get them down to a 0 level of disturbance. However, it can also go like this. 10 level of disturbance, one session. Down to a 9.5. Next session, down to a 9. And that is equally as valid therapy. People think I'm doing something wrong, it should be going faster, and the truth is, no, it's perfect. It's perfect for their brain and their rhythm and their pace, and that's what's important. Also, I like a little to say something about that. So again, don't be in a hurry to think that this is going to go really fast, and you should be doing something or you're doing something wrong, or you should be doing something better, or that's just not the case. I have a lot of material here. I'm running through this. And I've been doing this a very long time, and I have worked with everything from, just about everything in the DSM-5 with EMDR therapy. Of course, it's not appropriate across all things. I told you about some of the ones that we had earlier, anxiety, phobias, trauma, obviously. But we have found that, this is a story I'll tell too, interesting things along the way, something like that it works with phantom limb pain. And this is a story, so again, shields up, where I was in Colombia, and I was working with, actually, in a cartel's house. He was no longer there. People think that my job and my work with EMDR therapy was glamorous. Now, at times it was. But this time I was sleeping in a bed on the floor, and there were bullet holes all in the walls, right? So, very exciting. But this was a house for children where they had been dumped. The parents could not care for them, or they did not want to care for them any longer, and a lot of them were chronically ill. So they asked us to come over there and to train the Colombians, a group of Colombians, about EMDR and maybe how to help these children. So there was this one girl there, and generally speaking, when I go abroad, we are asked to treat people while we're there, actually do an EMDR session or two on them, along with training the clinicians in the countries to do this for themselves. That's our ultimate goal, is that they are in charge and can do their own EMDR therapy trainings over there. But in this case, there was a little girl who had been left at the orphanage, and she had cancer, and she lost her leg. They had to cut off her leg, and amputate it. And she was writhing in pain, screaming, crying, all from her phantom limb pain. So they asked, well, can you guys do something about this? And we said, well, you know what? I mean, what I always tell people is I'll give it a whirl. I have no idea, but I'll give it a whirl. And so we did. We worked as a team, and we worked on this little girl. And the first thing that came up for her was, I'm in pain, my leg hurts, do a little more bilateral stimulation. This is unbearable. Notice that. Pretty quickly, it went to being abandoned by her parents. Then it went to her leg abandoning her. And then it went to tears about how I will no longer be able to run and play with my friends here at the orphanage. And then the last thing that she said was, well, hold on a minute. I'm going to get a prosthesis. I will be able to run with those kids. Okay? So from screaming and writhing in pain, true story, she went to that place where she could imagine herself being able to overcome the pain and the loss of her leg. Went back several different times, 2 years post that treatment, it held with her. So that's when they started doing research on phantom limb pain, not me, but I believe it was Sandra Paulson. And anyway, now everybody with phantom limb pain who needs to or knows about EMDR therapy can certainly benefit from it for that pain. It used to be incurable. Pretty cool. That's how things happen, I think. You explore, you get a little bold, and you try things. Okay? I'll just keep telling y'all stories, how's that? Okay. Closure is an important thing. That's how I started with the closure. The idea being that, look, when you are working with somebody, and they may go through dissociation while you're working with them and everything, the idea is before you set them out of your office, to make sure that they're able to drive a car, right? They're able to be thinking clearly. And if it's necessary, and there's some techniques that we use here, and this is where we would use some closure things, right? Any kind of closure that you might need in terms of containment. But they can sit on your couch. I invite them to a cup of tea and sit on my couch as long as you need to get reoriented to this time and space before you go driving out. But most of the time before they even leave my office, right? There are the times when people really just like being in my office, and so they want to sit there. And I'll let them. But you want to make sure that they're good enough to be able to go out of your office and to go through the week without you, right? In the event, and in all the years I've been doing this, I've really only had 2 people call me up in crisis and tell me, Christy, I need to get another session in. If you close them down, and those people, I used everything I knew how to do, and it still wasn't enough. So there's no, you don't want to blame yourself if this happens, but it doesn't happen that frequently. If they need to, they can call you. In the next session, all you do is you just reevaluate. So you want to check your work. So say they started at 10 level of disturbance and they come in the next week, you do just what you would do with a normal person. Hey, how's it going? What's going on? What are you noticing? Is anything different? Have you been having nightmares? Have you made any new connections in terms of past, present, or future? Anything new come up? Any new behaviors? Any mastery experiences? So you're really wanting to know just what's going on with them and how are they doing. And then you take what we call the subjective units of disturbance, golpes, when you think about that original incident that we worked on last week and that negative belief, how disturbing does it feel to you today? And they'll tell you. So generally speaking, you should find that the work that you had will hold or it will get better. Because even when we stop doing this, there's research that shows it continues to improve for 1.5 years after stopping altogether EMDR therapy, okay? And what we think is happening is that we're, again, reconsolidating memories, and instead of looking out into the world and seeing I'm unlovable and I can't get what I want, you start seeing I'm lovable and I deserve love, right? And then that becomes your new reality, and that's what you start seeing, and that's what you begin to believe about yourself, and it just gets more and more etched in your mind. We talked about, this is a blip on research, but we talked about EMDR's first study. It included 22 participants, and we were talking about this before. They were primarily vets with PTSD. She had a couple of rape survivors, and again, this is where she started her work. But what she found, let's see what they have here. Oh no. What she found in her study was, again, you can't take things out that are appropriate for people to hold on to. I have a ranger, Army Ranger, who I treat, 6'4", tall guy, tough guy. We worked on everything, but when we started, we worked on his past, his childhood issues, and his war trauma. But when we started working together, he said to me, Christy, do not take away my functional dissociation. I need it to be able to do my job. And I said, I wouldn't dream of it. You know, seriously. I wouldn't dream of it, number one. And number two, I can't do anything your brain doesn't want me to do. That takes a huge burden off of us, I think, if you're choosing to do EMDR therapy, because you know you really are not going to do harm. You're not going to take away, it's not possible to take away what they want to keep or to remember. And people, yeah, so I'll just tell you that. There was another point, I think, in the last slide. Let me see. Oh, the other thing is that what's valuable stays. Generally speaking, when we have a client and we get them down to a 0 level of disturbance, they do not go back up. There's occasions when they might, like that 0 level, when you're reevaluating the next time you see them. What's the scale, 0 to 10? And it's a 0. With Shapiro, she found she was working with a rape survivor, and the rape survivor had been at a 0. She came back, and this person was suddenly at a 4 level of disturbance. So that's pretty unheard of. Just doesn't happen. Very infrequently does it happen. But guess what? Her perpetrator was let out of jail. So she had a tick up in her anxiety. It's appropriate. So again, it's not going to inappropriately remove what they need to survive. So she might need to be more on guard. She may need to lock all her doors and windows again. She may need to be watching, you know, when she's walking to her car. Who knows, right? So, so it's actually kind of good. She doesn't have to live with that 4 level of disturbance. We can work around that so that she can be calmer and still be able to be like the Army Ranger, respond when he needs to respond, or respond when she needs to respond. Okay. So, EMDR is now listed as an effective evidence-based therapy by at least 15 international treatment guidelines, including the APA, American Psychiatric Association, the Department of Veterans Affairs and Defense, VA and DoD, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA, or however you want to say that, and the World Health Organization. There's actually so many. Let me see it for the next slide. There's so many more than that, but those are the outstanding, ones. We have 32 randomized clinical trials that have found EMDR to be effective. What else? What I like is the neurobiological findings, right? They indicate significant effects, included changes in the cortical and limbic activation systems. And that means that literally they can see in the brain a change pre and post EMDR therapy, just like you saw on this guy's, right? To me, that's pretty telling. And you could see how different he was after his EMDR therapy. And I have a lot of little videos that show people pre and post EMDR and how they've changed, and how they change in their affect, how they change in their dress. Like there was this one lady who had been traumatized, sexually abused by her uncle, and she dressed and talked like a little girl. And after EMDR therapy, the next time she was like this. Hey, how's it going? I mean, just like, very different person. Kind of her voice lowered and everything. It was like, okay, DID or change? Not sure. Not real sure. But you have to just hang in. Okay. We'll have a lot of time for questions. Okay. You know that EMDR is all over the world. I myself have been, I can't even think of all the countries now, but gosh, literally all over Latin America, Asia, Central America, on my way to Africa, China. I guess China's Asia, Europe, of course. But anyway, it's really embraced by the Europeans, which is very interesting. And if you know anything about Europe, I wasn't holding my microphone this way. Could you hear me in the back? Okay. Forgot myself. If you know anything about the Europeans, they are sort of the most rigorous people there are for like medications and treatment modalities. So it's kind of a big coup to EMDR. I pretty much got laughed out of town when I told my colleagues I was doing EMDR. My Harvard buddies just razzed me and were telling me, you dumb, what are you thinking about? And it was a little bit hard, so it's really nice to see that now the research backs us. Countless times have we been poo-pooed. And that's okay. I like that. I want you to bring all your skepticism to anything you do. But it is nice to know that actually it's working with all the research. And now people have the backing of research to feel more confident in trying it out. Because seriously, I don't know. It looks a little wacky to me. I did take a long time to actually become comfortable with it. Even though I was teaching, even though I was finding incredible results, I kept thinking, really? What is going on here? I did. It took me a long time to totally be confident and comfortable doing it and knowing the results were actually going to be holding. Okay, so you already know this one too. We continue to grow. And seriously, if you're interested in research, we invite you to do it. If you're interested in more information, you can go to the EMDRA.com organization. There's a difference, and I want to highlight this to you guys because people are getting confused. Also, Francine Shapiro, okay, she is the person who originated this. Francine Shapiro is with the EMDR Institute, and that's who I train with. She took a bunch of us, and it takes about 4 years to become a trainer, and she handpicked us all. And most of us are still doing the work. Okay, so we've been at it a long time. EMDRA is the International Association, and they're in charge of standards and training. So they are always going to monitor those of us who are training and watching us and making sure we're doing a good job. Also, we meet, all the trainers in the world meet about once a year in a think tank and continue to grow this method. And if we demonstrate changes are necessary, we implement them in our training. But there's where you can get more information about EMDR. EMDR's Francine Shapiro's library. And actually, for her, it's EMDR.org. EMDRinstitute.org, I think. Yes, Kate?
I just wanted to say real quick that trauma support services, we have an app, really a wonderful group of trauma therapists, some of the best in the world. And I know our therapists, a lot of them are trained in EMDR and PFP and all, and use a lot of the different services we talked about this week. So when you're looking at this and wondering, is it worth my time? Who is doing this? What? And then, I don't know if Cambria will let you in just a 3-hour session, but could you demonstrate something, whether it's maybe the assessment? Could you have one of us come up and you go through what the assessment looks like before we do complex?
I have a volunteer. I have Kaylee's volunteering to do Safe Calm Place with me.
Oh,
Okay?
okay.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to do complex.
Oh, but you would rather me
I was
take...
wondering if you could, the assessment part, I think, would feel fuzzy to people that haven't been through your training.
Okay, you mean when you say assessment, do you mean the image, the negative belief, all of that? Yes. Okay. And Kaylee, would you be comfortable doing that?
I'm going to say yes, and if I start crying, I'm okay with it.
Okay, so you'll have to think about something I'm going to ask you to think about something that's a level 5 or below, and hopefully not family oriented. Okay? All right. Yeah, because I can trigger her. I want to tell another story. Okay, but I didn't answer. I'm supposed to actually respond. Repeat.
If you want to do a break first, that's
Okay. Yeah, because Safe Calm Place is going to take long enough, I think. But yes, I'd be so happy to do that.
I think, do you want to do that?
Yes.
You say no family stuff.
No family stuff, because that generally brings up a lot of, yeah,
That was my
right?
question, but I didn't want to go off of an assumption.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So why don't I have family stuff? Just because it's going to be easier for Kaylee. Okay. Okay. All right. So Janice also asked me, and you just asked me, training, what does it look like, and how much does it cost? So generally speaking, it's a 3-day training with 2 days, 2 days of consultation. So you will call in for consultation on a weekend that is not during the training times. It starts generally at 8:30 in the morning, goes to 6 o'clock at night. It's a long day and there's a lot of information. Half of the day is spent in lecture and half of the day is spent in practice. So you get to practice doing EMDR therapy, using the whole thing, and then getting mastery. 6 days. Consultation's fun. It's my favorite part. You just call in and you ask, okay, Christy, this is what's happening and what do I do now? Okay? Or this went fabulously. Or, oh boy, I'm stuck. I don't care. I love it. Right? And all of that's going to be helpful to you to grow, and it's helpful to you as a group because the consultation is a group consultation. And you'll hear things that you forgot that you wanted to ask or, that kind of thing.
To clarify, so consultation, you've gone out from the training and you've practiced it a little bit with clients. So you're sharing that experience. Is that correct?
That's correct. So the consultation is where you go out of the experience of the weekend and you get to practice what you learned, and then you get to call in and say, hey, okay, now this is what's going on. Okay, that's good. And it's consultation. Consultation is different than supervision. Yeah. I mean, it is kind of like supervision, but it's not supervision. And it's sort of like a legal issue. So consultation. Yes.
Can we get it as an intern, like an LPC intern? Or
Yeah.
does it have to be fully licensed?
You can get it as an LPC intern, but you have to have a letter from your supervisor. Yeah.
Does EMDR
Yes. EMDR, question is EMDR different than, sorry, he's letting me know I need to repeat it, with adults and children? Well, answer is actually yes and no. I mean, the format is very much the same, but you do have some adaptations in terms of language, you know, and yeah, so yes.
Did you say it was 3 days in length or 6 days? You started with 3 days, you said.
Didn't finish, did I? Okay. Okay, so it's 3. Okay, the question is, how long is the EMDR training? It's 6 days. The first weekend is 3 days. And then the second weekend is 3 days. And in between, you have consultation twice. And they're a month apart at least, so that you have the opportunity to get more, something under your belt, more time doing the therapy.
We have one more thing.
Okay.
I'm sorry to be talking so much, but we are so fortunate at TSSMT to have a number of people.
The person we're talking about is Sharon Walker, and she's here. So,
She's not here, she's not here.
okay, so Sharon Walker is the person who does consultation for TSSNT. And what does consultation to become certified mean? That means you need 20 hours of consultation. You need to see at least 25 people, and you need to have 50 hours altogether under your belt. You need letters of recommendation, and you need also 12 hours of additional advanced training.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yes. You need 25 to do the EMDR therapy with 25 people. You need 50 hours of actually doing EMDR therapy. You actually have to be, this is something I just thought about, licensed for 2 years. So it takes that long to get certified anyway, you know. You need 12 hours of advanced training. And I think I covered.
Consultation, there were so many hours of group, so many hours of individual. Is it 12 or 12 and a half?
10 and 10. 10 hours of group and 10 hours of individual, or you can do whatever, like if you like individual more, you can do individual, but only 10 hours of group. Yeah.
So those hours that are part of the training count towards that?
No. No basic training counts towards certification. It only starts to accrue after you've been basic trained. Yes.
Is it a certified, is there a certain type of certification that you need for your consultation hours? Like you couldn't just go see anybody just because they're EMDR certified. They have to be certified as a consultant as well.
No. When you get your basic training, I'll just kind of tell you this, how it goes. So when you get your basic training, you are considered EMDR trained. When you get certification, it means that you are taking more interest in EMDR therapy and you're taking it quite seriously. And people know that. So now people are looking for people who are certified. EMDR consultation certification means that you are working towards becoming a consultant. And that's a whole nother bunch of hours. Yeah. All of that, and I just want to say this because, you know, Sharon has been wonderful here in helping us, but that the people who continue with consultation, at least to the certification, tend to stay doing EMDR therapy because you get more comfortable with it. Even after the first, you know, the basic training, it's kind of like I mean, some people take it as ducks in water and they just go on and they're bold. But most of us need a little bit of help along the way to get us to keep using it. And once you do that, you guys, you know, I just want to say that, it has changed the way that I do therapy. It has changed really my life. It's been such a wonderful thing on a daily basis. I'm moved, and I know it's time for a break, but I am moved by people's change, the change that I see, that I did not see prior to doing EMDR therapy. It's very profound. And actually, when we come back, I was going to ask maybe 1 or 2 people to talk if they want to. I may not really have time, but I thought, what was your experience for those of you who have been through the training, because there's a couple of you here, one, how did you proceed? And then two, maybe a case. I don't know. Because I think it'd be nice for people to hear, not just me, but people who are out there actually using it and then hopefully enjoying it. Yes?
The only thing you didn't cover was the cost.
Oh.
The basic training.
Okay,
Approximate.
$1,400 if you're with TSSNT.
That's for the basic training?
That's for the whole training, yeah. Basic training.
Basic training. But
That means all, yeah, 6 days plus consultation. And the consultation is included in my trainings. Yes.
Can I just say, I took the first part of the basic training for EMDR a couple of years ago. It was $865 outside of what we charge at TSSNT. So it was $865 for both weekends, and then you had to pay for your consultation. So just so you know, the TSSNT package is a really good deal. Because you're probably saving a few $100 just in not having to pay a consultant and just off of the price.
Yeah, several hundred.
Say one more thing. There are people all over the place now training.
An hour. Okay, so how about if we take a break, you guys, and come back about 10 till? Those breaks are actually good, would get us moving a little bit, enliven us. So the next things we're going to be doing are doing the 8 phases really quickly with Kaylee and also the Safe Calm Place. So tell you the truth, this can pretty much take up all of our time. So I'm going to ask you to hold your questions. And I'm going to need a pen. Would somebody, yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, you guys. Okay, so I'm going to have you scooch over this way actually more. Okay, so you guys, we're going to pretend that I've spent already about 3 sessions with Kaylee. What we do in the first 3 sessions of EMDR therapy is history taking, okay, and establishing a target. So today we're going to drop in, act like we've done everything we're supposed to do before we start the Safe Calm Place, which is a lot of informed consent. I'm going to be showing you a little bit about what we do in terms of how you prepare somebody to do with the bilateral stimulation, how you prepare them to do EMDR therapy. So I got to get a little closer. Is that okay with you, Kaylee? Mm-hmm. Does this distance feel okay to you?
Yeah.
For me? Okay. So the first things we do is we have our chairs focusing in a way that's called ships passing in the night. And that means that she doesn't have her face right where she can see me. One of the things that we start to do with EMDR therapy, and don't look at my fingers yet, Kaylee, okay? So we're doing this, and then we have this drift. We start kind of trying to look at the person's face, right? Well, we're interrupting their process. So we try to have it so that they can't see our face, okay? Although sometimes we may look at each other when something sort of impactful happens during the session, but generally speaking, I'm out of her general vision. Okay, so Kaylee, I'm not really used to working quite this far apart, so if this is too far away, let me know. But the first thing that I'm going to do is, say we've already made informed consent, so I'm going to show you the bilateral stimulation, okay?
I'm comfortable if you want to move in a little bit.
Okay.
That's what you're
I'll scoot in just a tad.
Make it realistic.
Yeah. I'm going to be handing you we're going to be going, oh, there's not 2 microphones, too
That's why I
bad.
had him move there, so he can hear me.
Okay.
Can you all hear me? Yeah. I'll try and be loud.
Okay, so Kaylee, the first thing I'm going to do is show you bilateral stimulation, okay? And I'm going to move. Start in.
In the lower eyes, and then I'm going to pull back. You tell me when that feels good. Right here? okay? So then, if this is really me doing a whole session with her, I would move forwards on my chair still, because really you want to be doing it where your arm is comfortable. You guys are going to get really tired. So that's something important to know. Okay, so you like just about here. All right, and the next thing that we do is we do bilateral stimulation, where we start moving my hand back and forth, and you follow it with your eyes. You ready? Okay, here we go. And I start out slow, and then I'm going to go a little faster and see what she can tolerate. It's going to be all about her, you guys. How is that? That's okay? All right. Did you like it faster or slower, or at the end, was it? Slower was easier, okay. So we'll go slower. Now I'm going to show you a couple of different directions, Kaylee, in the event that I need to change direction with bilateral stimulation, okay? Now you're writing all of this down, right? If you're actually doing this, when you all are going to be practicing today, you're going to be writing it down. So I'm going to move on at a diagonal, and I'm going to start down here. And here we go. And now I'm going to show you another way, and you'll tell me which one you like better, right? This direction. I'll start high this time, down. You stop in the middle of their face and you take your hand gently away. I used to be a dancer. Again, some of you who heard me and taken my training, you know all about me. But I used to be a dancer and I have a little flair. Let's stop. But you see their eyes take off in that direction. So I had to stop my ways. Okay, so you take it gently down so that her eyeballs aren't going everywhere in the whole wide world. Okay. Did you like one way or the other better?
I think this side was easier.
Okay. Okay, see? Good student, I wrote it down. All right. So good. So that's just the eye movements. Now I'm going to show you the other ones. Here's how tapping feels like, okay? Is it okay if I touch you?
Yes.
All right. So there's a couple of different ways to do it. The first way I'm going to try is on the side of your legs. Then I'm going to try on the top of your legs. And then I'm going to have you hold your hand on your knees, and I'll tap on top of your knees, and we'll determine which one you like best of those.
If you need your hands, we can probably put it in that right around if you think.
Oh, that's a good idea.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a good idea. We have to take a technical break. Brilliant idea from Kaylee's brilliant brain. Thank you. Scooch up just a bit more. Thank you.
Can you hear us?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, good. I'll have to talk kind of louder. I'm going to scooch a little closer too. Okay. Can y'all hear me? Woo. All right. So Kaylee, I'm going to start tapping on you. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here we go. We're just going to try this out. Now I'm going to tap on top of your knees. Now I'm going to ask you to put your hands on your knees. Did you like one of those better than the other?
Kind of like on the hands.
On the hands, okay. So put hands. And now, last but not least, there are machines, you guys, to do this with, besides doing the way that I'm doing it. And eventually you will very likely want to invest in a machine, because I have rotator issues for all the years I've been doing it. And it's more comfortable for them too, I think. Sometimes people like the tapping and the actual touching, but other times they do not. All right, so Kaylee, I'm going to do, last but not least, the auditory
Okay, now this can be a little annoying, but I'm going to stand behind you. And then I'm going to do this with my fingers, okay? So always tell them what you're going to do next. I'm always letting them know so that their limbic brain is calm and knows what to expect. How was that?
It's okay.
That was okay? And of all of those, is there one your body and your mind just love better than the others?
The hands.
The hands. Okay, okay. All right, that's what we'll do. So, I talked to you about what we're going to do next last session, right? Sort of how this session was going to go. And I'm going to ask you now, we're going to do the calm, safe place, all right? And I'm reading this, you guys, because I want you to move it over. I'm reading this so that I don't, because I want you to follow it verbatim. We've been studying this for all these years. We have it written in these particular words. Even if it feels awkward to you, we want you to be following this when we're doing our safe, calm place, okay? All right, so Kaylee, I'd like for you to think about some place you've been or imagine having been that feels very calm or safe, perhaps being on the beach or sitting by a mountain stream. What image represents your place?
Let me share.
Mm-hmm.
In visiting the mountains in Colorado. Just staring up at the mountains, and it's just so beautiful.
Ah, that sounds lovely. It's one of my favorite places too. So would you describe to me what you're seeing when you think about being in Colorado, visiting the mountains?
Yeah, it's the spring, so everything's it's not snowy, it's actually really green, really bright green. But the top of the mountains have snow on them. And it's not warm, but it's not cold, but there is a little briskness in the air. It feels easy to breathe. I feel like a weight off my chest being there, like I can relax. And I don't have worries, because I'm on vacation. I'm away from home. I'm away from all the stresses of home, and I can leave those behind and just focus on the mountains.
Wonderful, that sounds great. So I'm going to ask you, Kaylee, to just notice that being in Colorado, visiting the mountains, seeing it in spring where things are really brilliantly green, snow-capped mountains, right? Where you can feel the easy breath, the weight off your chest, and where you're able to leave that stress behind. And then I'm going to tap on you for just a few minutes. Okay, and focus on any sights, sounds, smells, and sensations that come up.
Are my eyes open or closed?
You can keep them open or closed, depends on what feels most comfortable to you. Okay? All right, so you got all of that? Okay, here we go. Okay, take a deep breath. What did you notice?
I was there, and really like in that space, in that moment, and it was neat.
Okay, good. So I'm going to have you just notice that and what that was like.
Okay.
Okay? Here we go. Take a deep breath. What came up? Something disturbing?
No, I think just kind of anxiety of leaving it all behind.
Okay.
I want to be there, I want to be relaxing, but I feel like I need to still be focusing on the things that are at home.
Okay.
But I don't want to be. I want to let it go.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to try this one more time. If we just take you back to see where you were feeling just the weight off your chest. Okay. I'm going to take you back. And I'm going to explain something to them. So as a guinea pig, forgive me for stopping. Okay. All right. So a couple things, you guys. One, she started going someplace where she was feeling something slightly negative, right? Anxiety is no fun. So generally speaking, I would switch to another calm, safe place. When you're doing this afternoon, I want you to do exactly that. I do not want you to continue. If somebody says this, you'll stop and you'll just go to another safe, calm place, because it's supposed to be 100% positive. You're also going to be doing very short, slow sets. 4 to 8. Slow. So you notice I was kind of doing it slowly. When we're doing processing, and don't watch my hand, I mean, if they can tolerate it, I go this fast, okay? So tapping, I might go faster too, depending on the person's desire. But for this exercise, slow, and 4 to 8, no more than that, okay? The reason is, because if you go longer than 8, something's going to come up for the person, all right? And I just did 8, but 6 is probably her best number. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you to just see. And if not, we'll just figure out another place for you, another calm, comfortable place, okay, that doesn't bring anything up. Because we want it just to be delicious.
Okay.
Okay? All right. So think about yourself visiting the mountains in Colorado. You saying that it's a bright green spring. Top of the mountain still have snow. It's brisk and easy to breathe. And there's a weight that's off your chest that allows you to leave the stress behind. What's happening now? Are you able to get that? Do you need a minute?
No, I feel happy.
You're happy? Okay. So notice that. And where you feel that happiness in your body.
Here. Oh,
In
notice
your
where.
chest.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. You can tell me. Yeah, okay. All right. So notice that. Something come up? I did 8 again by accident, yeah.
No, it's good.
Uh-huh.
It
It's
was
okay?
good that time, yeah. I
Okay.
didn't feel the same anxiety I still felt happy, but I could imagine myself being there and only being there.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Okay, good. And what was that like? Being there and only there?
It was freeing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so notice that. All right, here we go. Deep breath. And what'd you notice?
My shoulders kind of went down.
Uh-huh. Okay, so relaxing a little bit.
Yeah.
Shoulders going down.
Mhm.
Notice that. Deep breath. Deep breath helps the limbic system, you guys. So I have them breathe between every set. Sometimes they want to do that, sometimes they don't. But I breathe with them to encourage them to breathe, okay? What are you noticing now?
I feel kind of a little tingly.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm getting, I don't know, like I'm getting a lot of oxygen or something. Like I'm breathing really deeply, and maybe I don't think I was breathing deeply before.
Oh, okay. Is it kind of like, or
Yeah, like my whole face is kind of tingling.
face is tingling? Okay.
It's almost the feeling when you're like breathing heavy.
Uh-huh.
You
Okay.
like breathe too fast, but
Yeah.
it doesn't feel bad. It feels good.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. So notice that, all right?
Mhm.
So just so you know, that could be dissociation, or it could just be, yeah, breathing.
It could be something else. Anything else?
No, we all dissociate.
Okay,
So it's
okay.
100% natural and normal,
Okay, good.
okay? And actually, I'm going to keep shortening. Look, you modify according to what the person needs, right? So I'm going to take her down to 4. We're going to try 4 because I was doing 6. All right. So nose the tingly. And did you say it just was kind of interesting? It wasn't bad, or was it bad?
No, I don't feel bad.
No? Okay.
Yeah, I feel kind of warm and relaxed, actually.
Okay, warm, relaxed, tingly.
Yeah.
Okay, notice all of that.
Okay.
All right, here we go. What's happening now?
More the same.
More of the same? More dizzy?
Maybe a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit dizzy. Not bad, but kind of still that tingly sensation. But I feel like my muscles are kind of noodly.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Muscles noodly. I'm going to have you notice that.
Is that, yeah?
Yeah, that's good. All right, here we go. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Still noodly?
They feel a little stronger now.
Oh, and what's
Yeah.
that like?
I don't know. Strong. It feels strong.
Strong, is that good?
Yeah, like I'm more in control of it now.
Oh, okay. In control of what?
My body, my muscles.
Okay.
They kind of felt like I was like they were just really weak there for a minute, and now I've regained strength
Okay.
in my muscles again. But not in a. I don't feel tight. I feel relaxed.
Okay, relaxed.
Like I've released kind of my muscles, but they're strong.
Okay, good. So notice that.
I feel a little more dizzy.
Dizzy? Okay.
Mm-hmm. So my heart kind of skipped a beat there for a second. It kind of, I don't know, not bad. I didn't feel bad, but it just kind of, I could feel my heartbeat for a second.
Okay. And it wasn't bad, but you're more dizzy or just coming back?
More dizzy.
More dizzy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's try a different target.
Okay.
Okay? All right. And I wouldn't, if I wasn't rushed for time, I wouldn't be worried. But I really kind of wanted just to go like in a positive way without, the tingling could be dissociation, which I already mentioned. Again, no problem. But for the purposes of the training, I want to just make sure it's positive, okay? Is there another place that you would find just delightful, calm, relaxing? Yeah? Where would that be?
The Grand Canyon.
Oh.
And I just went there, so I have a great memory of it.
Oh, that's so nice.
It was beautiful. It was kind of rainy. In my memory, it's a little bit overcast, but the sun's hitting the clouds in a way that the sky is just lit up. And looking over into the Grand Canyon, I have a sense of how small but how important we all are, and it's very empowering.
Wow.
I felt really happy in that moment.
Okay, let's give this a whirl. You ready? Okay, here we go.
Feel happy.
Happy?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to have you notice that, all right?
Okay. It's hard to keep from smiling. Like my muscles in my face want to smile, and I'm trying not to, but it's in relation to that.
Okay, let yourself smile if you want to. Let your body do what it wants to do, okay? All right, here we go.
Very at peace.
Okay, one more time. At peace.
just kind of deeper in that sense of peace of this moment is everything that there is, just right now, looking at them off into the chasm.
Beautiful. So totally in the moment.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a gift.
Mhm.
So I'm going to have you just notice that one more time.
I feel excited.
Good.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, super.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I'm going to have you take all of that. Now we're going to do something with it, okay? All right. Is there a phrase or word that represents your safe place?
Big.
Okay, cool. So think of big and notice all the positive feelings and sensations you're having when you think of that word. And concentrate on the feelings and sensations and the word big. Okay, you ready? Here we go.
I feel kind of light, like I'm kind of floating a little bit.
Okay.
Mhm. But I also feel grounded too. I don't feel like I'm floating away or anything. I'm grounded, but I feel light, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm actually going to stop bilateral stimulation there on that, okay, which is tapping. I'm going to stop tapping. And now I'm going to ask you to do something. I'm going to ask you just to think on your own, all right, to say the word big and notice how you feel.
Big. I feel not big.
Yeah. Yeah, tiny.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I feel like I'm aware that I'm not big.
Okay. And that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sure?
Yeah. Most of the time, I think.
Okay, all right. I'm going to take you at your word. So now I'm going to have you do, I'm going to have you think about a very minor level of disturbance. Something like, I'll give you an example, like driving in the car and then somebody cuts in front of you, something like that. Or in the grocery store when you've got your groceries and you're headed towards, the checkout counter and something kind of cuts in front of you and you're just like,
So an annoyance.
Yes.
Something that annoyed me.
but tiny.
Okay.
Okay? And I want you to think about it and then I want you to tell me what that is.
Okay. When I was in college, I was running really late for a class, and I found a great parking spot right at the front of the parking lot. I knew I could get in really quick, and I was waiting. I had my blinker on, and I'm a rule follower. I like to follow the rules, so I thought, I have my blinker on.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to respect that I have my blinker on. I'm going to take this parking spot, and then someone went around me and took my parking spot, and I was real annoyed.
It sounds like you have some people who
I
can
think so.
relate.
And the voices in my head are agreeing right now.
Yeah.
No, that annoyed me, and then I had to, go find a parking spot, and so that was, I was real upset.
Okay.
I wanted to find that person.
Okay, yeah, right, yeah. Track them down.
Yeah.
Okay, good, that's perfect.
Okay.
Now, when you're doing this, and then we're already running out of time, I know, because I got to be fast about this, and Janice may not get in, if they're going to practice, I may not have the time to, okay. All right, I just know you requested it. So I'm going to have you take yourself from that memory of this person taking your parking spot, even though you had your blinker on. You want to run that sucker down. Okay, so I want to have you think about that, and then take yourself to big.
Okay.
Okay? And all that entails, all the feelings that were coming up positive. Okay? And when you're finished, let me know, because I won't know you're complete.
When I've reached big.
When you've reached big. Okay. And tell me what's happened.
What process I went through or where I'm at right now.
Where you're at now.
I feel like that, like, I kind of feel silly for being annoyed at it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, why did that annoy me so bad?
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And were you able to fully go to big?
I think so.
Uh-huh.
I think maybe I could have spent a little bit more time.
Okay.
Maybe I didn't quite get all the way where I was earlier, but
Okay.
I felt like I was mostly there.
Okay, okay, excellent.
Mhm.
Okay. And so that you'll find that that's common, actually, and that using this big regularly, the more you use it, it's like a muscle. It'll start growing in your ability to change your state. Okay? All right, so then I'm going to have you do it one more time, Kaylee, thinking about maybe another mildly annoying disturbance.
Okay.
That's a low level of disturbance, that's 0 to 2 maybe.
Everything's family related.
Okay,
I'm trying
okay.
to find something not family
Okay.
related.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, if that's the case, just because of time too,
Sure.
I'm going to take it, we'll just leave it there.
Okay.
Okay?
Mhm.
And how are you feeling right now?
I feel good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. And when you think of big, how do you feel?
Very relaxed.
Relaxed. Good.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. You can hang out in big for a while if you want to.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so that's where we'll stop, because I don't think we're going to have time to do the 8 phases thing, all right? But I'd like to open it up for questions, and then I'm going to give you some directions, and then you guys are going to do this on each other, okay? And so the first thing is, if they choose this, bilateral stimulation, this is one, from starting here, going here, and back. So if you want to call it 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Same with tapping. 1 and 2 is 1. All right? And you do it, I'm going to tell y'all just to do it 4 times, because we don't want to bring anything up for anybody. If something comes up, you're going to want to cut it off at the pass. Okay? So you're going to want to go on to find another thing, just like what happened with Kaylee. It wasn't bad. But we don't want anything negative in there. We don't want anything tainting that positive emotion, that positive sensation. Okay? You guys feel like you know what to do? You have a script there. I want you to follow your script. Always ask before you get started, you guys. Hey, you guys, before you get started, always ask what their disturbance is to make sure that it's a minor disturbance. And you might use traffic as being one as long as they don't have road rage, okay? Because sometimes people choose, like something with their spouse, a knockdown, drag out in the night, and that is not an appropriately small disturbance, okay? So everybody hear that? Okay, so I want everybody, oh yeah, I can take it up. Okay, so you guys, before you get started, I want your attention. I was telling the group that, listen, ask before you start what their negative, the small disturbance is, because it can be anything from, a knockdown, drag out fight with their kids or their spouses, or something that's actually pretty emotionally laden, versus somebody cutting you off in traffic or somebody taking your parking space. So you want to ask before you start, and make sure that it's a very low level of disturbance, okay? Something totally minor, especially for today. Well, any day, really, if you're going to be doing this in the future. Okay? And then did you hear about the back and forth? Everybody hear that? Okay. Yeah, 4 times? Yeah, 1. Okay, starting here. 1 and 2 is 1. 1 and 2 is 2. 1 and 2 is 3. Yes?
It's like you stopped at 7 sometimes. And did you always start on the same side?
It doesn't really matter what side you store it on. And no, I don't always store it, and I just count. And sometimes I don't even count because I've been doing this so long, so I kind of just do it by feel. But count today, okay? Yeah, why don't you count them? No, you don't. You don't have to count out loud. And you have to divide up your time, you guys, 15 minutes and 15 minutes.
I think they're ready to go. That was a good example.
So,
No, I enjoyed it.
Oh, good.